Hey, I'm Grin and welcome to this video. Well, I've finally seen Avengers Infinity War, which means two things. Firstly, it's time to do an initial reaction on it, and secondly, I can finally stop avoiding every form of social media in the vain attempt to avoid spoilers. Speaking of spoilers, this is not a spoiler-free video, so if you've not seen the film and don't want to have it spoiled, then this is not the place for you. That said, if you do want my spoiler-free review, here it is. The movie is good. If you're a Marvel fan, it's definitely worth seeing. If you've not seen previous Marvel movies, then it's probably going to confuse you greatly. After all, this is the 19th installment in the franchise, so you've got a lot of homework to do. And with that out of the way, spoilers, let's begin. Firstly, my main initial reaction is, oh wow, geez, my gosh, golly, that's a lot to process. A lot went on in this film. I think a lot of us predicted that there would be losses to the Marvel roster throughout this film, but I doubt many people expected there to be so many, and I would be extremely shocked if anyone, and I mean anyone, had predicted half of the entire universe would be wiped out. That's pretty huge, and I think Thanos probably holds the record now for the highest kill count of any movie monster. I mean, Godzilla stomping around Tokyo Town is a lot, but it's definitely not half the universe a lot. Now, that said, while I was very surprised so many characters died, I would be equally, if not more surprised, if all of these characters stayed dead. Especially considering some of those died were new characters with such potential like Spider-Man and Black Panther, whereas other characters that lived like Iron Man and Captain America are very much getting near the end of their Marvel expiration date. And it does seem that this film is very much a the night is darkest before the dawn situation, especially considering that Doctor Strange explicitly told us that he would sacrifice Iron Man or Parker to protect the Infinity Stone, then went into a trance and said that he saw only one outcome where they won, and then when he went back on his word and traded the Infinity Stone for Iron Man's life, he went on to say that there was no other way. So it seems pretty likely that these events, dark as they are no doubt part of the one outcome that Doctor Strange saw, and is probably on a redemption arc that will save us in the second Infinity War. And I would also assume that if clicking your fingers wipes out half of the universe, if what's left of the Avengers manages to get their hands on the Infinity Gauntlet, then probably clicking your fingers again will bring a lot of them back. By the way, I'm noticing just now that it's very hard to click your fingers with gloves on, so Thanos actually has mad skills. What I've been saying so far isn't usually what I say for an initial reaction, but if you've watched the last few of my initial reactions for Marvel movies, I basically continuously say that there's not much to say about a Marvel movie. They are very much the situation where you know what you're going to get and you often get it. They're extremely well done films with amazing visual effects and amazing choreography that are well written with good actors, and this is very much the case for this. As I said for what was probably Thor Ragnarok's initial reaction, if the film wasn't excellent, there would be more things to say than if it was. And luckily for us, once again, this film is absolutely excellent. Though that said, it is worth mentioning that this film stands as, even probably more so than the other two Avengers films, as a movie that, if you've not seen the rest of the franchise, would probably be extremely confusing to watch. And I'm somewhat glad that that's the case, because rather than just bathing you through the entire film and restricting what they can do, they just assume that you've watched the other 18 films in the franchise. And I think that's a fair enough request of the audience, because pretty much all advertisements leading up to this film made it pretty clear that there's so many characters in this movie and you should probably know what's going on. However, that said, I do have friends who have missed previous installments, including Thor Ragnarok, and don't follow the franchise that closely, who still thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I do plan to see this film a second time in the cinema, which is something I very rarely bother doing for Marvel movies, because for me, a Marvel movie is usually a spectacle, but there's not really enough going on that warrants a second viewing. However, this film is so dense that there's just so much going on in every single second of it that I think you could probably watch it 5 or 6 more times and still have missed out many things. I mean, it's essentially a whatever the runtime is of constant fighting and constant banter. Speaking of the banter, it was really cool to see a lot of these characters together for the first time. I enjoyed seeing Banner catching up with the Avengers that he's missed while he's on his adventures, and it was great to see Thor's encounter with the Guardians. The very end of the film was obviously shocking, so much so that I led with it for this initial reaction, but I'm very glad they did that. I mean, now the stakes are higher than they've ever been before, and I honestly cannot wait for Infinity War Part 2. I mean, half the universe hangs in the balance, and so very many of our characters have already been killed off. I'm not even sure who. I tried making a list, but then I found out that Doctor Strange had died, and I hadn't even noticed that. There's just death after death after death that you're not even done processing one before it's moved on to the next, which is another reason why I think it's worth seeing a second time. And so I suppose in closing, Infinity War. It was 10 years in the making and took 18 films to lead up to, but it was well worth the wait. If you've not seen it, I highly suggest you do so, and I'm sorry that you continue watching this video and have the whole thing spoiled for you, and if you have watched it, I would love to hear what you thought about it in the comments below. I think if I had but one gripe with the film, it would be that Thanos called Spider-Man an annoying insect. Thanos, I think you've been around long enough to learn the difference between insects and arachnids. Oh, and also second gripe for the film, the giant battle in Wakanda. Where were the war rhinos? I was waiting for them to be brought out and they never showed. And with all of that said and done, thanks for watching, and until next time, I have been and still am Grindle. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join our Discord, the Echo Chamber, links to both of them in the description